My last year of med school, I was in basically crippling pain. I was a fifth year medical student because I had taken a year off to get my MBA. I'd also taken 4 years off in between my undergrad and graduate school. So at this point, I'm delayed. I'm an older medical student in my fifth year, and I have my fifth year ahead of me. I'm in horrible pain. I can't get out of my bed because I have a herniated disc in my back. I had been dealing with chronic pain from my hip that I was scheduled to have surgery on. And at that point in time, I didn't know if I was even going to be able to walk into the hospital for my first day of my general surgery rotation.
Yeah, I love the word. Remember learning it for the first time. The root means to hold on and not let go. And it's a great word. It's exactly what it takes to get to where you are now. You know, you guys have spent 32 plus years to get to this point, and nothing that requires more tenacity than that.
I think I've always just called myself stubborn. And I think, it just depends on which side of the coin you're looking at. But I think going into something like neurosurgery, anything that's very challenging, you just have to be willing to keep doing it, even when you don't do something well one day, even when it's really hard. And I think, whether you call it stubbornness or tenacity, that willingness to just keep coming back is so important to actually becoming a master.
A lot of people have really good ideas, but not many people pursue them with the doggedness that's necessary for all the years of work that go into success or failure.
When you want something badly enough, tenacity is just something that happens. Sometimes if you're smart or gifted, things come easy, and so your work ethic is inversely proportional. And I think if you're too smart, it becomes a sword that cuts the other way.
Accurate introspection. It's another one that I think is hugely important, just because you need to know what level you're at all situations in order to actually progress. You need to be hard on yourself. If anything, you should be more negative to yourself than what's actually true, just because that's going to keep everybody safe, and that's going to probably fuel you a little bit faster.
It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And whether it be the arts or the sports, the ability to pace yourself and have that stamina to go the distance is critical.
I think there's periods of junior residency that are really hard because you start to realize how little you know. And I think it's hard to come every day and kind of try your hardest and realize that there's a lot that you don't know. And then that gets better, and then you get a little bit more senior. You're put in situations where you realize again that there's a lot you don't know.
There are a lot of times in residency where you feel like you're bad at all of your jobs, given the demands that you have on your time. And so I think that's when tenacity is really important, to really dial in and just go back to basics and know what your missions are. Patient care, being a good surgeon, being a good member of your family, and keep trucking on.
I don't think I'm personally crazy motivated or anything. It's just very clear that I wanted to do this, do what needs to be done, and that'll get you there. And then afterwards, people will say, wow, he has a lot of tenacity, but I don't think it feels like that in the moment. That's not itself a driver. I think it's all clarity of purpose. Let's say someone was tenacious and they don't have clarity of purpose, they're not going to do anything useful or of value. I think if you have a clarity of purpose, you're gonna do what needs to be done. That's kind of the easy cheat code to making it not all feel terrible.
I needed great grades, I needed papers, I needed research science, I needed all this stuff. And so that's where I think the tenacity became evident. I really needed to work hard at this. I knew I wasn't going to be the smartest of the 7. I went to a school where these guys seemed a lot smarter than I was, so I felt like I just had to find a way to work harder than them. And maybe that hard work and tenacity would put me in a better place at the finish line. I had to read things twice or 3 times. I had to write things over and over again to get it to stick. You can't control how smart the people are around you. You can put yourself in places where you're not the smartest, so it forces you to work hard.
You feel that calling, you feel something so strongly about what you want to do, that's going to take care of the rest of it. I feel like if you wake up every day, you have the feeling that I have to do this or I'll explode.
But when the match results came, I did not match into neurosurgery. And it was this sinking feeling of, I did not just sacrifice everything I had up until this point. I sacrificed everything that everyone in my life had and put everything into this one pot. Now what? I did a general surgery year as I was required to, and received more opportunities in other specialties. I just refused those because I knew within myself that I'm meant to be a neurosurgeon, and that is what I want to do. My father had a huge role to play, but I had committed to it years before that. And to me, that was an unwavering determination that I was unwilling to compromise on. Every opportunity that closed their doors on me, I said respectfully, I accept what you're telling me and I'm willing to improve on feedback you give me. I am not willing to say that you get to determine whether I get to have a future or not.
And I remember saying to one of my faculty, when I graduate, I want to be the best surgeon that ever graduated this program because I was so far behind. I just said, I'm going to have to work on my psychomotor skills.
Some of my first AVMs at UCSF, they took forever. They were like, I remember one lady, I was operating for 12 hours. It got to be like 8 o'clock at night, and my team was like totally fried, and I was totally fried, and I was only like halfway around this thing. And I realized I didn't have it. I wasn't there. Part of tenacity is realizing that you got a lot of work ahead to try and figure this thing out.
Some of the best teachable moments occur when you fail. And if you learn from that, you won't repeat that failure, or you'll devise even a better strategy to conquer that particular task.
It's the 5% of cases that go poorly that really differentiate top-level surgeons from, the average people who are out there. And so we always used to say in practice in high school, when I was like doing football training, we would embrace the suck. It's the last few reps of your set. It's the last part of the sprint that you're running, the end of practice when everything is more difficult. That's where you're making the most progress. And so I always remind myself in certain situations, just like embrace the suck. Put everything aside and get to the task that's at hand. And that's really where, you can differentiate yourself and make a difference in a patient's outcome.
When I'm driving back home, I'm always replaying in my mind a video of every case I've done that day and identifying points of what can I do better next time, because we always can do better, particularly in cases that turn out to be really tough. And then you ask yourself, well, is it tough because I'm not good enough, or is it tough because the pathology is just overwhelmingly, oppressive to us?
I believe in polarity management, and I believe that it is important neither to become so inured to patient damage that you don't feel it, nor to become so damaged by it that you can't take a breath and then go back to it. So I believe that you have to intentionally digest complications, and I'm better at that now than I was when I had my first one. I believe if you are fully engaged in complex or high-risk neurosurgical cases, it is in your best interest to understand that that is trauma. And you should develop a suite of tools for processing that and using it to your advantage rather than having it undermine the foundations of your ability to perform.
Like, I'm kind of hyperactive. I always have to be moving. I really like to exercise, to be out and about and do a lot of things. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. And those are kind of my outlets. And so not only are you dealing with these things, the pain and the self-doubt and your dreams potentially slipping away, but you also have no outlet for that. And so you have to find new outlets, and ultimately you kind of just have to sit with it. Instead of running away from it, you're forced to sit with it and become friends with it and accept it. And yeah, this, really scary monster, and it's ultimately, it's your own doing. You're creating that thing. You're creating that thing from running away from it. Once you sit with it, it disappears, it's gone. And so you've kind of conquered it and become friends with it. Yeah, and it's like accepting yourself. It's like coming from within.
People go through a lot in their lives. You just have to find the reason why you are doing what you're doing and keep doing a good job at it every day.
I still think I'm a pretender. I still wake up every morning and I said I'm not good enough. I can't believe certain people let me do that. And it's the old John Wooden quote. I ask myself and ask my residents every day, when do you have to be perfect? You have to be perfect every day. Maybe you won't get there, but you better try to be perfect every single day. And you know what? If you have a chip on your shoulder, that's okay. That drives you, that you could be better.
You're climbing beyond base camp, out of your comfort zone. And I think the most important thing I look for in faculty, and the faculty that I see that are most successful, are the ones who learn from their experiences, who learn from others, who are open to improving themselves, open to recognizing where they can do better, are not defensive about it, and are aggressive learners.
The passion is wanting it so badly that you're willing to suffer.